Today is the first official day of the ULEZ expansion in Greater London, and the Labour Mayor Sadiq Khan wants you to believe that he's celebrating. In reality, the Mayor's office are in a meltdown. In this video, we're gonna explain why. Hello to you all beautiful freedom fighters. Welcome to Tousi TV, the channel that challenges the mainstream media and the political establishment, from the left-wing nutters to the globalist elite. Alright, so we got a couple of stories for you guys throughout the evening today. We're going to focus on ULEZ. We're going to focus on a senior Labour politician getting arrested and charged, and another one. This one is a Tory councillor who's also been arrested, but there's a huge difference between the two. But first, let's talk about what's going on in central London. Earlier today, we had another ULEZ protest, actually across the capital. It wasn't just in central London. We also had gatherings in Bromley, in South London. But let's talk about why this is actually chaotic as the first official day of this ULEZ expansion. You have the protesters. You got Howard Cox, the Reform UK mayoral candidate there. You've got Richard Tice. We even had many others as well. We got Nigel Farage. I'm going to show you the videos we have. But the cameras, as we said yesterday, 90% of the new cameras, ULEZ cameras, are not working. They're inactive. They're trying to replace them as we speak. But the Blade Runners, the protesters who've been removing the cameras, they are on top of it. They are checking the live map to make sure that if there's a new camera being installed, they can remove it again immediately. There's a problem with cameras. There's a problem with the actual signs that they're putting up, because we already have a tribunal case. And yesterday we talked about how one person who managed to win that case because the signs that they are putting up are quite vague, and it doesn't actually give you a warning, a heads up that you're going to get charged. So obviously it doesn't really set a precedent, so you have to appeal and go to tribunal every single time until this mayor manages to actually change his mind, if he ever does that. We've got all that problem. But now the biggest issue for Sadiq Khan is that it's not just the usual everyday anti-ULEZ protesters who are gathering today. Nope. As of today, we also have small businesses groups rising up and the federations against the same mayor who they've been supporting until now. First, let's go to the first video we have from Nigel Farage. Now, as you saw, Nigel Farage was there to show his support to obviously the cause, but a lot of people were loving it that Nigel actually attended. We even had, as we said, Howard Cox, the mayoral candidate from the Reform UK, who made this video.
Okay, here I am outside 10 Downing Street. As you can see, there's an incredible turnout. The police are also making sure we move along, but we've had some fantastic support from people going by. And well, today's the day. I call it Decimation Day. And this is hitting hard-pressed motorists, low-income families, sole traders. ULEZ has been expanded to the M25. A totally pointless tax. It's not going to do anything except fill the coffers of a very dishonest mayor's administration. Frankly, what we need to do is get rid of him as soon as possible, and I'm calling for him to actually stand down, resign, and to cut a long story short, we need a Reform UK mayor. It's as simple as that, because that will be the true Conservative policies being put out to the people of London. We need to get rid of all ULEZ, and that's from the day one, not just the expansion, but we need to get rid of LTNs, 20-mile-an-hour limits, and those huge cycle lanes so we can get London motoring again. And before people say, I'm not a one-trick pony, I want to triple the number of bobbies on the beat too. So tune in for me in the next 7 months. You're going to see a lot more of me campaigning on your behalf.
Now, one of the reasons this could actually work out quite well for Howard Cox is a lot of people have been saying, well, London is a Labour city. London is not a Labour city. London is primarily an anti-Tory city. And again, there's a huge difference between the central urban areas and, of course, Greater London and all the rural areas. There's a massive gap. But even in the urban areas, we've already seen that people just have a problem with the Tory branding. they don't really have a problem with basic conservative policies, small c conservative, whether it was, technically speaking, at the time, Boris Johnson in 2008 and 2012, standing on a platform where he was giving out some liberal policies to Londoners, because people like Zach Goldsmith were behind it, those green nonsense, but he was also giving out some good conservative policies for businesses, small businesses. So because it's anti-Tory rather than pro-Labour, this could help Reform UK and Howard Cox, because if they manage to actually communicate with the public properly and successfully, then they know that, oh, their policies are conservative-minded policies, common sense, but they're not Tory. So they could actually use their new branding, Reform, to get the vote. But it's not really easy because people are still tribal. It's blue versus red. And a lot of people might not just even come out to vote. So it's a very tricky situation. But let's talk about this uprising from small businesses, because we got the Federation of Small Businesses, Michael Lloyd, who's the leader of the London infrastructure of the group, saying that if you're going to have ULEZ expansion, you need to have a fair implementation. To go heavy-handed at launch during a cost of doing business crisis, it will be disastrous. He also did say that we need a clear communication of new policy, and supporting retrofitting was essential. So before actually all this stuff, one of the problems that I've been discussing for the past year or so actually on this channel has not just been about those of us who have been going to the anti-ULEZ protests, is again the silent majority who can't really come out to speak out against it. That also includes small businesses. Now, small businesses, it's not just a fear of cancellation, it's also because they can't really leave their shop in the middle of the day to come to Westminster to protest. We haven't heard from them properly, apart from if there's a petition or if there's an online signature. So the Mayor of London is still complacent. He thinks if he just goes on TV and calls a few of us tinfoil hat nutters and conspiracy theorists, he can shut us down. But the more he does this, the more he's going to create the silent majority to rise up. And when the election comes, he's going to get hit massively by that negative feedback. Anyway, Mr. Lloyd also said to The Telegraph that the smallest firms are often the hardest to reach, and so communicating the funds in the clearest possible way, in particular for those with the light vans who are keen to retrofit, remains paramount. From our experiences with other major public policy and scheme changes, it is vital that the Mayor and TfL adopt a safe harbour approach to the early stages of the ULEZ expansion. So this is still very nice language, it's very diplomatic, it's very professional and polite, but the members of these organisations are not as polite as their leaders. And we've seen the protests in Bromley, in Harrow, many other places in Greater London, and the same applies to outside of London. This is not really a London-centric issue. You got clean air zones in Birmingham. You got the ULEZ policy in Glasgow. You got so many other areas with 50-minute neighbourhoods and LTNs in Bristol, in basically everywhere in the country. And all this is linked. So when we talk about Sadiq Khan's London, it's not really about London. It's about the fact that this mentality is spreading around like a virus. This is literally a pandemic right now. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. I'm Mahyar, Tousi, and we are the media.